Hello everyone. In the present video, I will discuss about the issue of development and disaster. I will discuss this particular issue in the context of environmental sociology. Environmental sociology basically focuses on the issues of development from environmental, ecological, societal as well as developmental context. Environmental sociology take into account the various dimensions of development. Everybody has an argument that development causes displacement and disaster. And what kind of development? Industrial development and the urbanization, deforestation. These reasons are very common. Everybody knows. But here I will particularly point out some sociological issues, some sociological narratives. And I will take the reference of Ulrich Beck, Anthony Giddens, and Frankfurt thinkers. If we take the reference of Ulrich Beck and his theory of risk society, then we may consider this particular man-made disaster as a result or consequence of techno-rationality or uncontrolled scientific development. There is no control of scientific development. There is techno-rationality. This particular techno-rationality narrative is also used by Frankfurt thinkers in their understanding of advanced industrial society. If we take into consideration of their ideas and relate it in the present situation, then we will able to understand that this development is of course a surface reality, but there is some underlying reality, underlying facts exist, and this is called scientific rationality or techno rationality or uncontrolled scientific development. Science and scientific development, technology and technological development have their close connection with the capitalism. And the capitalism basically promotes techno-rationality, and through techno-rationality and scientific rationality, the peoples and masses are convinced that this is the most modern version of the society, most modern stage of the society or human civilization, and they becomes more prone to the development, materialistic progress and upliftment, even at the cost of environment, even at the cost of the ecology. So it is not simply development. There is a ideology behind this development, and this ideology is scientific rationality or techno rationality. So Ulrich Beck's Risk Society, Frankfurt thinkers pointed out these particular issues, and these are the features of advanced industrial society. Even if India is not even at the stage of advanced industrial society, but it is under the influence of advanced industrial society. So today, Assam's flood situation, the landslides in the NC Hill and in the Meghalaya and Assam is the clear case of the environmental destruction in the forest, in the hilly tracts, and the massive deforestation, and the ultimate consequence is the displacement. But this displacement is not simply a natural displacement. This displacement caused by natural disaster in present Assam is not simply a natural displacement, or flood situation or disaster is not simply a natural disaster, but the causes, factors are man-made. But most important point that I would like to point out is the victims of the disaster and displacement. They are mostly poor. So, environmental sociology covers or try to understand this particular situation, this particular condition with a concept called environmentalism of the poor. How the poor people can express their environmental concern because their livelihood, their life, their culture, their society is devastated, massively destructed if any natural disaster or man-made disaster erupted. So capitalism mainly promotes the scientific rationality, techno-rationality, and it convinces the people and masses, and ultimately development process goes on. But ultimate victim of the displacement and disaster is the poor people. So it's not that the rich and other wealthy sections are not getting affected, but major section of the victims in the displacement process uh, or in the destruction process is mainly the poor. So this is another important issue. That is how this environmental displacement or developmental displacement has a disparity. But this disparity has not created by nature. That nature has not created uh, a particular disaster for the poor people. This disaster is manipulated in such a way that it affects mostly the poor and it affects less in the society or in the area or in the locality of the affluent and wealthy sections. So it is a manipulative disaster. Even if it is a natural disaster, but it has intervention of the humans. It has intervention of the science, developmental system, and which has their own ideology called scientific rationality, techno rationality. So because of this manipulative natural disaster, only a particular sections become more affected and affluent sections or wealthy sections gets less affected, or their degree of effect is very less, or they may have a mechanism which uh, which which makes a recovery in their conditions, or recovery mechanism may be strong, but in a weaker sections or among the weaker sections the recovery mechanism is very weak, so they may ultimately gets adversely affected. In this context, I will take the reference of Anthony Giddens' idea of juggernaut of modernity. Of course, this juggernaut of modernity I will discuss in any other video separately. In his concept of juggernaut of modernity, he basically pointed out the uncontrolled modernity, uncontrolled development. So here environmental sociology, or I as a environmental sociologist, is not opposing the development, but to what extent this development will go. There is no control, there is no limit. So this uncontrolled development and modernity may leads to the destruction, and that destruction will have no recovery because there is no balancing mechanism. In the absence of balancing mechanism, the chance of disaster, chance of disruption is more. So ultimately, we may say that this uncontrolled modernity, uncontrolled development, techno rationality, scientific rationality are the main factors behind the natural disaster, but man-made natural disaster. And this natural disaster I would call as manipulative natural disaster, because this manipulative natural disaster causes partial impact on a particular sections and another kind of impact on another sections.